All new tonight, after a 7-year pause, the state of Arizona is looking to start executing death row inmates once again.
Yeah, last week, Arizona Attorney General Mark Brnovich announcing his office is seeking warrants to execute 2 prisoners who've exhausted all of their appeals. But death penalty opponents are concerned, saying there's too much secrecy and controversy involving the lethal injection drugs used to carry out these executions. Tonight, we're pulling back the curtain. ABC 15's Sonu Wasu looks into what went wrong the last time the state tried to put someone to death and if that could happen again. I want to warn you, some of the details in this story are graphic and can be disturbing.
Florence, Arizona, home to the state prison that houses those who have been sentenced to die.
It's a given most of our clients commit horrible crimes.
Dale Beisch is a lawyer who has represented many of these convicted killers. And Attorney General Mark Brnovich, who represents the state, says it's his job to speak for the dead victims and their grieving families.
The ultimate crimes deserve the ultimate punishments, and that's why we're moving forward to make sure that the families get some closure on these cases.
Opinions are strong among those for the death penalty and those against. One thing both sides will agree on, these killers need to be locked up. But when it comes to executing them, there are protocols the government must follow. The basic one of which is carrying out these death sentences humanely.
I have always said that the less you know about the death penalty, the stronger your opinions, either for or against.
Michael Kiefer is a journalist who has covered death penalty issues in Arizona for almost 2 decades.
It affects you. It's surreal. It makes you wonder what, it's sort of an out-of-body experience watching it.
The last execution Kiefer, along with attorney Dale Beisch, witnessed was a game changer. The execution of Joseph Wood, a man convicted of killing his estranged girlfriend and her father in Tucson more than 30 years ago.
I remember watching Mr. Wood as he was laying there, and slowly his eyes began to close. He appeared to be very still. And then all of a sudden his mouth opened very wide. He bucked up against the straps, his head tilted back, and it was a gulp, a gasp. He was struggling to breathe.
I think everybody sort of jumped in the room when that happened. Then it happened again, and I took out my notepad and I started counting how many times he did that.
Brutal to watch. Witnesses say it took almost 2 hours of snorting and convulsing before Wood finally died.
What we did not know at the time was that the state injected 14 additional doses of the drug to try and complete the execution.
But if you ask state officials,
at the end of the day, the medical examiner and other experts said that that killer was unconscious the whole time. There is no evidence that that person suffered in any way.
The Attorney General was not there to see what I saw and what other witnesses saw.
Was this botched?
It was.
In fact, those against the death penalty say there have been too many executions where the drugs did not work as intended. A report released by the advocacy group deathpenaltyinfo.org questions the secrecy surrounding executions in America, saying, quote, states are conducting executions with drugs and drug combinations that have never been tried before, and they're doing so, quote, behind an expanding veil of secrecy laws that shield the execution process from public scrutiny.
This is all about transparency, and in the case of Joseph Wood, using an experimental drug combination that was going to fail. We knew that. We told the state that, but yet they forged ahead.
We've learned the state will no longer be using that drug combination anymore. Going forward, they plan to use a single drug, pentobarbital.
But because this drug has been in short supply, those against the death penalty want to know where the state plans to get the drug from. We asked Attorney General Mark Brnovich that question.
Where's the state getting this medication from now?
Well, that's confidential, it's private by statute.
Why is that information confidential?
Well, I think what we've seen over the last few decades is opponents of the death penalty have waged a guerrilla war.
Brnovich says it is to protect the companies, pharmacists, and doctors who supply the drugs and perform executions.
At the end of the day, what these killers get with lethal injection is much better than anything they did to the victims and their families.
See, if the state of Arizona wants to take another citizen's life, it should be transparent as to where it got the drugs, who is carrying out the execution, what qualifications that person has, what kind of access people will have to the client.
There have been some wins for those fighting for transparency. According to a settlement, the state will now have to leave microphones turned on in the execution chamber during executions. Witnesses will see the prisoner brought in, strapped down, and they will also see the drugs actually being injected into their arm. Sonu Wasu, ABC 15, Arizona.